Good day everyone, thank you for joining this session. My name is Hamiza. I'm from the Faculty of Economics and Management at the National University of Malaysia. Today I will be presenting our work on narrative comic based assessment for entrepreneurship education in the genAI era. This is part of the teaching and learning conference track here at AOM. Let me start with quick overview of what we did and why. So the purpose of this study is due to the situation that we are facing right now. Gen AI adoption in higher education has raised real concerns. We are all experiencing that: superficial learning, assessment validity, and students leaning too heavily on automated tools. We as educators, we think they are not really learning. They complete the task, but do they understand the concepts that we are trying to teach? Rather than reacting defensively, we wanted to design an assessment that deliberately balances technology use with vicarious real-world practice in a first-year entrepreneurship course. So students interviewed local entrepreneurs and turned those lived experiences into a 5-page comic narrative tied to entrepreneurship theory. I specifically encouraged Gen AI tools, but constrained by the task design itself. So the comic-based assessment, it supported conceptual understanding, but of course there are always room for improvement. So we are showing how the assessment design itself, not just policy or detection, will shape the relationship between technology and learning. For introduction, why does this matter now? Gen AI has reshaped higher education very quickly, and it's raised persistent concerns about surface learning, validity of assessments, and over-reliance on automated tools. And entrepreneurship education is a particularly revealing test case because it depends on judgment, opportunity recognition, and sense making. Things that simply reproducing content can't deliver. And they are first year students. They face a compounding challenge whereby they have limited exposure to real entrepreneurial practice, so they tend to treat concepts abstractly. For theory, our guiding question was, how does a narrative comic based assessment design that integrates Gen AI use support conceptual understanding and sense making in first year entrepreneurship education? So it's been broken into 3 research questions. What did actually students learn? How did combining entrepreneur engagement with comic narrative support conceptual understanding and sense making? And RQ3, how did students use Gen AI to construct the artifact? We draw on 2 complementary theoretical lenses: social learning theory and also constructivist learning theory. For methodology, in terms of data, this was run at a Malaysian university. First year students, Bachelor of Entrepreneurship and Innovation program, specifically in a subject called Fundamentals of Entrepreneurship, a first year, first semester course, so it's totally preliminary. Students worked in teams of 4 to 5. They can submit in Bahasa Malaysia or English. So this is an assignment that accounted for 40% of the student grade. So this was a substantial high stake piece of work, not a minor at all. These are the 8 ventures that our student groups engage with. This grounds everything that follows. So sectors, they range widely in from facility and skilled labour services, healthcare and media. So I'm quite happy to see the diversity of students' entrepreneur engagement here. What students learn about entrepreneurship concept from the assignment. The comic format itself did real conceptual work. The sequential panels naturally captured the temporal, conceptual and dynamic dimensions of entrepreneurship. So this is not a static essay, this is not a static slide deck. Students make sense of the story and construct them in a more meaningful artifact. Two addresses how combining entrepreneur engagement with the comic supported conceptual understanding. So we look into it in terms of having a real conversation with real entrepreneur, how they turn it into a visual narrative. So they weren't just applying a label to a concept, they have to figure out where in that entrepreneur's story a concept like opportunity recognition or resource bootstrapping actually showed up. So this translation work is where that sense making happens. RQ3, how students use genAI to construct the comic artifact. Gemini emerged as the predominant tool across groups, and also there's clear division of labor. Text-based tools like ChatGPT, DeepSeek handle narrative drafting. There are multi-tool pairing. There's also multiple iterative revision and differentiation. Comfort with genAI varied within teams, creating a productive division of labor, although we did see complications when work was developed in silos rather than collaboratively. So what does this mean? First, the authentic entrepreneur interviews fostered genuine vicarious learning. Students observe, they engage with real entrepreneurial experiences through dialogue. This reinforces something the literature has been emphasizing: lived experience as the foundation for entrepreneurial learning. Second, the comic-based narrative construction supported constructivist learning. Students had to collaboratively interpret entrepreneurial stories, connect them to theory. This drove active meaning making through verbal and visual representation. Third, the comic functioned as a genuine sense-making tool, helping students transform entrepreneurial experiences, which is abstract, into a coherent, accessible stories. And fourth, which I personally think this is our key contribution, assessment design shaped how productively students use generative AI. So authentic interviews, they drove vicarious learning. The comic format drove constructivist meaning making. The narrative structure enabled sense making. And critically, it was the assessment design, not a ban on AI, that shaped how productively students use genAI throughout the process. So technology enables rather than replacing the teaching and learning experience. So this is what I tried for this class, and that's the design principle I encourage anyone in this room to take back into their own courses. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll be glad to take any questions, but also you are welcome to reach me anytime through my email. Thank you very much.